On March 8, 2014, a Boeing 777 carrying 239 people left Kuala Lumpur, flew into the dark of night, and never arrived in Beijing. 10 weeks later, a video appeared on YouTube showing what looked like a plane being circled by 3 orbs of light before vanishing in a flash, and some people believe it shows what happened to MH370. So here's the story of the video, the man who made it his mission to prove it was real, and the chain of events that sent the internet into chaos. The red-eye flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing took off on March 8, 2014, with 239 passengers and crew on board. Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah communicated with the Kuala Lumpur Area Control Center, confirming that he had reached the plane's cruising altitude of 35,000 feet. At 0106 a.m., MH370 sent an automated position report using the Aircraft Communications Addressing and Reporting System known as ACARS. At 1:19 a.m., the plane's co-pilot, Fariq Abdul Hamid, bid Malaysian Air Traffic Control goodbye with the final words, "Alright, good night." That was the last time anyone heard from the cockpit. The ACARS system, which transmitted data about the aircraft's performance, sent its last transmission at 1:07 a.m. and was subsequently switched off. The last voice communication from the crew occurred at 1:19 a.m., and at 1:21 a.m. the plane's transponder was switched off, just as the plane was about to enter Vietnamese airspace over the South China Sea. Now here's where things take a turn, in the most literal sense. At 1:30 a.m., Malaysian military and civilian radar began tracking the plane, as it turned around and then flew southwest over the Malay Peninsula, and then northwest over the Strait of Malacca. At 2:22 a.m., Malaysian military radar lost contact with the plane over the Andaman Sea. The plane did not crash over the South China Sea. It turned around. It flew in the opposite direction of its destination, and then it disappeared from military radar. An Inmarsat satellite in geostationary orbit over the Indian Ocean received hourly signals from Flight 370 and last detected the plane at 8:11 a.m. For nearly 7 hours after its transponder went dark, MH370 was still flying, pinging an Inmarsat satellite with automated check-ins once an hour. No transmissions were initiated by the plane, and 2 incoming satellite telephone calls went unanswered. The world woke up on March 8th to the news that a commercial airliner carrying 239 souls had simply vanished. Initial search operations focused on the South China Sea. That was the intended flight path. However, the revelation of the plane's westward turn redirected efforts. In the days after the disappearance, no trace was found. This led to a wide range of speculation, perhaps driven in part by hope. If the plane had not crashed, then perhaps the passengers were still alive. Some suggested that it had been hijacked. Others claimed it had flown through a black hole into another dimension, a theory actually discussed on CNN. Nobody knew what happened, and when people don't know what happened, they start looking for answers in places where answers don't exist. And then 10 weeks later, a video showed up on YouTube. MH370 went missing on March 8, 2014. 10 weeks after that, an anonymous YouTuber, Regicidanon, posted a video that purported to be a stereo satellite image of a plane. There was no context, no description linking it to MH370, no manifesto, just 2 words in the title: Airliner and UFOs. Uploaded to YouTube in May and June 2014, these clips, titled simply Airliner and UFOs, purported to show a passenger jet being circled by 3 glowing orbs and then disappearing in a flash. Here is what the footage showed. The video shows some clouds over a blue ocean background. A plane, banking steeply, flies into view from the top left. About 15 seconds later, a white orb-like object flies in and begins to loop around the plane. It's joined a few seconds later by 2 more. The 3 orbs orbit the plane as it levels out. Then there's a sudden flash of light, and the plane and orbs vanish without a trace. There were actually 2 videos. One, allegedly from a military FLIR, forward-looking infrared drone, shows a jetliner at night encircled by 3 glowing orbs. The other, from a satellite perspective, shows what appears to be the same scene. 2 angles, 2 perspectives, both showing the same event, a commercial airliner being swallowed by light. It was a simple-looking fake, something any artist could knock out in a few days, with common tools such as Blender and After Effects. Most people recognized this and paid it very little attention. It had little impact, but gained a steady trickle of views, and that was it for nearly a decade. The videos sat in the darkest corners of the internet, collecting dust and a slow drip of views from the occasional curious observer. Regicide Anon, whoever that was, never came forward. The uploader then vanished, a common pattern for internet hoaxes. But the coordinates embedded in the satellite video footage were interesting. Viewers noted the on-screen coordinates corresponded roughly to the area over the Andaman Sea, where MH370 had last been tracked on radar, sparking speculation that the videos showed MH370's final moments. That small detail, the coordinates, was a ticking time bomb. It would take 9 years to go off, and when it did, it would become one of the most viral pieces of content the MH370 mystery had ever produced. In 2023, the world's appetite for the unexplained was at a fever pitch. Congressional hearings on UAPs, unidentified anomalous phenomena, had suddenly made the idea of government UFO cover-ups less of a fringe fantasy and more of a mainstream conversation. In testimony, former intelligence official David Grush said, Grush cited interviews he had conducted with over 40 witnesses over a 4-year period as the basis of his claims. In that febrile atmosphere, the old Regicide Anon videos resurfaced. With the recent interest in UFO sightings, several social media users began sharing unusual footage of what looked like an aircraft surrounded by flying orbs, attributing it to the missing Malaysian plane. A Reddit post sent on August 7, 2023 on the subreddit r/UFOs, which received 4,900 upvotes, included what looked like ultraviolet footage of a plane encircled by 3 moving dots. The post exploded, comments flooded in, and one name kept rising to the surface. Ashton Forbes, on both Reddit and Twitter X, emerged, but he rapidly picked up steam and began to simultaneously collect evidence for teleportation. Forbes was not a physicist. He was not an aviation expert. He described himself as an independent researcher with a background in software and project management. But he had conviction, energy, and an absolutely remarkable ability. His theory was breathtaking in its scope. The Ashton Forbes MH370 theory centers on alleged satellite and drone videos, showing MH370 being enveloped by 3 orbs and vanishing through a portal. He suggested the plane was teleported away by UFOs or advanced technology. The story Forbes told was labyrinthine. The flight was targeted by the US government, he says, because there were Chinese-American engineers aboard who were involved in transferring intellectual property from the United States to the Chinese government. The theory was that the US government had detected that a plane carrying important personnel taking off from Malaysia had a fire on board, so they quickly dispatched some advanced technology that used spinning orbs to teleport the plane to a safe location, filming it from a drone and 2 satellites. Unable to reveal the technology to the world, the passengers were put in witness protection. Forbes argued that the 2 videos, the satellite view and the FLIR drone view, were too sophisticated and too perfectly synchronized to have been faked by some random person with a laptop. He said it left just 2 months to produce 2 perfectly cinched high-quality military classified videos that had no visual flaws, whose satellite technology wasn't even known until Trump leaked a picture in 2019. He claimed it was impossible for anyone non-military to know what these satellites were even capable of, let alone a random hoaxer. Furthermore, because there were 2 videos from 2 angles, they would have had to render a complete 3D environment to get it all to sync perfectly. He gained a lot of followers in a relatively short time. He started appearing on podcasts at first on some of the more credulous UFO channels, but then podcasts a little more mainstream. Regardless of what happened on those podcasts, they only increased his followers. The momentum built like a wave in deep water. Always circling back to the central proposition, these videos show what happened to MH370, and the government knows it. And then the millionaire stepped in. Things were hitting a peak in November 2023, when Forbes was endorsed on Twitter X by Kim.com, a conspiracy-minded millionaire with 1.5 million followers, and described the videos as the most significant leak of military technology in history. This greatly boosted Forbes because most of .com's followers were amenable to such a theory. The post got 6.3 million views. 6.3 million views from a single post. And then .com did something that changed the entire trajectory of the saga. This was followed by a video from the popular conspiracy channel Anonymous Official. Then .com offered a bounty of $100K for anyone who could provide the original footage. That got people's attention, $100,000. That was the price tag .com placed on the truth, and the internet, being the internet, went to work. Hundreds of people had already been looking into the origin of the video, and now they were incentivized. The investigation splintered into dozens of parallel threads. Redditors pored over every pixel. VFX artists started pulling the footage apart, frame by frame. Amateur satellite analysts tried to match the perspective and coordinates. It was a decentralized forensic investigation operating at breakneck speed across multiple time zones and platforms. And then, just days after the bounty was posted, someone found something. A few days after the reward was offered, an anonymous Redditor announced he'd found the source of the clouds on a stock photo site called textures.org. The clouds in the satellite video, the very background of this supposedly classified military footage, matched stock photographs available on a public website. The photographs were not captured by a spy satellite over the Andaman Sea. YouTuber Jonas Dero in a video claimed that the viral clip carries his stock image, which dated back to 2012. Jonas explained that the stock image is from Japan and has been used as the background for the viral clip. He also showed that the stock images are available on a website named textures.com. Jonas Dero released a video showing the match to a cloud photo he took in 2012 over Japan. The raw image shows Mount Fuji, geolocating it far from the Andaman Sea. The EXIF data, the digital fingerprint embedded in any photograph, confirmed the images were taken near Mount Fuji in 2012, 2 full years before MH370 disappeared. This was devastating. If the background clouds in the supposedly authentic military satellite video were actually stock photos taken by a concept artist flying over Japan, then the video could not have been captured by a satellite over the Indian Ocean. It was a fabrication, stitched together from publicly available material. Following release of his explainer video on YouTube, in which he showed they had been made from a composite of high-res images and other elements, .com himself issued a statement. "I want the videos to be wrong. I want this to be fake. I don't want the US Govid to have this technology." He declared the videos officially debunked. Over the course of a few hours, .com flip-flopped from accusing Mick West. He messaged West to tell him he was correct. Of course, then people thought he had been compromised. The debunk didn't satisfy Forbes or his most devoted followers. Forbes contested the cloud imagery findings. He claimed the dates of Jonas Dero's stock images couldn't be verified. He accused Corridor Crew, a popular VFX YouTube channel that had also analyzed the footage, of fabricating their debunk. The most prominent confrontation occurred with the Corridor Crew, a popular YouTube channel specializing in VFX analysis. Their examination of the satellite and FLIR footage concluded the videos were sophisticated CGI fabrications. Forbes responded with detailed technical rebuttals, arguing that the Corridor Crew's analysis contained fundamental errors about satellite imaging capabilities, thermal physics, and motion tracking characteristics. On the Danny Jones podcast, things reached a particularly memorable moment. On one particularly memorable appearance on the Danny Jones podcast, with 743,000 followers on YouTube, Jones brought up the explosion matching the stock footage. "It's an exact match," he said. Forbes replied with a crude analogy, and a visibly stunned Jones ultimately concluded the videos were fake. But Forbes and his followers grew stronger from the exposure. Every debunk made the believers more certain. Every piece of evidence against the video's authenticity was reframed as evidence of a cover-up. Let's step back and look at what the accumulated evidence actually shows. First, the provenance of the videos. 2 short videos quietly appeared online a few months after the March 2014 disappearance. Uploaded to YouTube in May and June 2014, these clips, titled simply Airliner and UFOs, purported to show a passenger jet being circled by 3 glowing orbs and then disappearing in a flash. The original postings by an anonymous user later nicknamed Regicidanon in conspiracy circles did not even mention MH370. The connection to the missing flight was made later by viewers who noticed the coordinates. If these videos truly depicted MH370's disappearance and were known to US intelligence in 2014, one would expect some whisper of them in official or investigative channels. Instead, they surfaced via an anonymous YouTube account, with no mention of MH370, just weeks after the plane vanished. This timing is suspect. A hoaxer took advantage of the news cycle to upload mystery UFO and plane clips when the world was searching for answers. Second, the satellite problem. An analysis by Hoaxeye noted that the second part of the footage could be traced to a military satellite, NROL-33, which wasn't launched until after the disappearance of MH370. The call sign visible in the lower left corner of the video points to a satellite that did not exist in orbit when MH370 went missing. This alone would ordinarily disqualify the footage as authentic. Third, the clouds. Jonas DeRoe's stock photographs, taken over Japan in 2012. The match was precise and verifiable. Investigations into the cloud imagery seen in the videos unfolded a convincing layer of evidence pointing towards fabrication. A meticulous comparison between the clouds in the disputed footage and high-definition images from a known visual resources website revealed nearly identical matches, indicating the use of stock images in crafting the illusion. This discovery was pivotal in reaffirming the speculative nature of the video's contents. Fourth, the VFX analysis. A YouTuber named Dom Burgess was able to recreate a similar video using computer applications, such as Cinema 4D and Adobe After Effects. He further said that it is not impossible to recreate such kinds of videos. A near match for the portal effect in the drone video was also found in an old VFX library. The effect is called Shockwave Fireburst, Explores Oro 1 HD, and was originally included in the Pyromania CD-ROM from 1998. The very explosion effect that supposedly represents alien wormhole technology bore a resemblance to something sold on a disc in the late 1990s. Fifth, the Inmarsat data. The actual, verified, peer-reviewed satellite data from MH370's flight. There were several satellite pings from the plane long after the plane's last contact with ATC. This would disprove the video outright. The final ping occurred several hours after last contact. If MH370 had been teleported through a portal at the point shown in the video, over the Andaman Sea, there would have been no subsequent Inmarsat pings, but there were. Analysis of satellite communications between the aircraft and Inmarsat's satellite communications network concluded that the flight continued until at least 8:19 and flew south into the southern Indian Ocean. The plane continued flying for hours after the video supposedly shows it vanishing. That is not a matter of opinion, it is data. And sixth, the physical debris. In 2015, the first piece of debris from the airplane was discovered, the right-wing flaperon, which washed ashore on Réunion. Over the next year and a half, 26 more pieces of debris were found on the shores of Tanzania, Mozambique, South Africa, Madagascar, and Mauritius. 3 of the 27 pieces were positively identified as coming from Flight 370, and 17 were thought to have likely come from the plane. If MH370 was teleported through a portal, there would be no debris. But debris exists. It washed ashore. It was tested. It was matched. The plane hit the ocean, and yet, the theory persists. The rise of the Ashton-Forbes MH370 theory is a textbook case of how modern misinformation can spread. A fringe idea lay dormant until it was amplified by social media algorithms and influencers, reaching millions who were either curious or credulous. The theory combined a popular mystery, MH370, dramatic visuals, the orb videos, and a grandiose revelation narrative, the government is hiding the truth, which are potent ingredients for virality. Forbes continues to promote his theory, asserting that the videos are 100% real, and comparing skeptics to those who doubted the Wright brothers. He has accused Kim.com of being compromised. He has accused the Corridor crew of fraud. He has accused debunkers of being government agents. Kim.com responded directly, telling Forbes, "You agreed that the MH370 videos are fake after our call with Jonas. The real story of MH370 is not about portals or orbs or teleportation." In July 2018, the Malaysian government's final report stated that a mechanical malfunction was extremely unlikely, and concluded that the change in flight path likely resulted from manual inputs. However, investigators could not determine why Flight 370 disappeared. That uncertainty, that one unanswered why, is the crack through which every conspiracy theory about this flight has poured. Tim Black, deputy editor of Spiked, wrote that it's in this darkness, this near absence of knowledge, that speculation has flourished. According to Rob Brotherton, a psychology lecturer at Goldsmiths University of London, whenever there is a lack of conclusive information following headline-grabbing events, conspiracy theorists rush to fill the factual vacuum that is created. The video that the government supposedly tried to delete was not deleted by the government. It was uploaded by an anonymous user, ignored for 9 years, resurrected by a UFO frenzy, and then refused to die. The MH370 portal theory emerged from obscure 2014 videos rebranded in 2023 as leaks by Ashton Forbes and others. Social media and forums greatly amplified the content, allowing a long discredited idea to gain new life. The original Regicide Anon YouTube channel that posted the video was eventually deleted. The video still exists on archive.org. Nobody has produced evidence that any government entity ordered its removal. The video was not suppressed. It was simply forgotten until it was useful. By October 2017, 20 pieces of debris believed to be from MH370's aircraft had been recovered from beaches in the western Indian Ocean. Those are real. You can hold them in your hands. They were pulled from the water. They were analyzed in labs. They tell a story not of teleportation or portals, but of a plane that flew into the southern Indian Ocean and never came back. 239 people boarded Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 on March 8, 2014. The search that followed became the costliest in aviation history. The official joint search by Malaysia, Australia, and China concluded in January 2017. The Malaysian government had ended the search for the plane in 2017. A private company had conducted a second search in 2018, but suspended the operations that same year after they did not find anything. The main wreckage has never been located, and that is the only honest statement anyone can make about MH370 that doesn't require a portal, an orb, or a stock photo from Japan.